This weekend on the original Rochester Press Box.
I'm Craig Rybczynski, the Director of Communications for the Rochester Nighthawks, and I'll tell you why Matt Vince is one of the best goalies ever in Nighthawks history.
And I'm John DiTullio. I'm a sucker, and I'm proud of it.
I'm Toby Motyka, and I'll tell you why there's at least no harm in talking to Lyle Collins.
I'm Bill Pucko with the new way to win Major League Baseball games. Join us this weekend on the original Rochester Press Box. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you, joined as always by John DiTullio, Fox 1280
So
Sports.
excited to be here again. Thanks for having me back, Billy.
Alrighty, it's our pleasure. Toby Motyka joins us in for on assignment Mike Catalana.
Bringing a little youth to the seat.
Yeah, in a great suit. And it's good to have Craig Rybczynski of the Rochester Nighthawks back with us. The Nighthawks, of course, on the verge of going for that fourth straight championship. We'll talk about that in the second segment. I think that might be the most significant thing maybe that's ever happened professionally in town. But second segment, the first thing, I'm fascinated by this whole story with the Buffalo Bills going after this Lyle Collins guy and how Rex Ryan gave him an audience down in Baton Rouge like he just happened to be there.
Oh, yeah.
How do you read this situation, Craig?
Well, I mean, it's a pretty bold move by Rex Ryan, but that doesn't surprise anyone who knows his personality. You know what? Right now, the legal process is still going on with Collins. You're innocent until proven guilty. He'd be a great talent to play for the Buffalo Bills, and I think he'd be an instant impact player. So I think he got nothing to lose by going after a player like that.
Yeah, just to set it up. Again, this is the guy. He's been questioned in a murder case. It was a first-round draft talent, and the offensive line falls right through the draft. Nobody touches him, so he's a free agent right now, and the Bills are the first one through the door.
It's a weird, sad situation, okay? There's no getting around that. You can question Collins all you want. Right now, police are saying he's not a suspect, correct? Here's the thing. Since when was there harm in just talking to somebody? The Bills didn't bring a contract down, apparently, and go, hey, come play for us, sign this today, we'll take you on board. I don't think there's ever any harm in saying, going down and having a meeting with a player. I don't care what their character issues are, in talking to them. Now, if more comes out and we start hearing a little bit more about him being more involved than is initially believed at this point, then maybe we'll start worrying a little bit, and I would think the Bills would shy away. But if it's said that they're not a suspect, what's the harm in at least talking and at least introducing yourself in case he's cleared of all wrongdoing? I just don't see the problem.
The Bills are they're in a no-lose situation here. If he is charged, okay, we talked to him, we met face-to-face with him, didn't work out. If he is cleared and he's never charged and they arrest someone else, the Bills may have signed the best offensive lineman in the draft, and as we talked yesterday, this would be their first-round pick. So the Bills, to me, are in a no-lose situation, and I think they owed it to themselves, they owed it to the fans and the organization to go down there and speak with him.
And isn't Rex the perfect guy to do it?
Ideal guy to go down there and sell the kid on coming to Western New York. If everything is cleared, if he's cleared through all this and they charge someone else, it's very, very sad what happened to this kid. I'm saying that now. I don't know what the outcome's going to be. But the one night that he looked forward to, maybe his entire life or his collegiate career, was ruined.
Victim himself.
Exactly.
It's not a crime to know someone who was the victim of a crime.
Yes.
And right now, that's all we know at this point. If more comes out, wipe your hands off and stay away. But right now, why not talk to him?
It's an added element, Craig. Is it a little hypocritical, you think, of the NFL, however, to allow him to fall through the draft and say, we don't want anything to do with him, and as soon as he's a free agent, now people start knocking on his door and say, you know what? Isn't that a little hypocritical?
I think so. I think if you think he's a good enough talent, someone would have drafted him, first and foremost.
But there was no question about that. I mean, he would have been drafted in the first round, and they let him fall through. To come back after the fact, I'm not real comfortable with that.
Yeah, it's tough to figure the NFL out, though. I mean, you don't know what happens behind closed doors. So, like I said, Collins, hopefully he's cleared of all the wrongdoing, and he can come through this and fulfill his dream of playing in the National Football League. So just have to wait and see.
He'd be the cherry on top of what is pretty much an uneventful draft for the Bills.
And his agent said, listen, if you don't pick us in the top three, we're not going to report. So teams were, all right, if we don't pick them in the first 3 rounds. But I see what you're saying, but they got to wait for the police to kind of finish their report. So I can see what you're saying, but if I'm a general manager, what am I going to do? Waste a high draft pick? And then what if he is arrested? So you're right.
But you're throwing six rounders out there for nothing. Who couldn't have spent a 6th round draft
pick?
But
he said, listen, if you pick me in that round, I'm not going to report. Right. So do not bother picking me after the 3rd round.
Now he has a choice. Collins can choose where he wants to go once all this is said and done. What you have now is just teams lining up for his services and making essentially a bid on him. I'm curious to see how the salary structure will work if he's cleared and someone signs him.
Just make it up in a signing bonus, right?
Yeah, maybe, but undrafted free agents don't get $15 million contracts. That's about what this guy would have gotten if he went where he was supposed to go in the
first round draft picks don't fall to the draft. This is like totally new territory. Really interesting. We'll take a look at the Rochester Nighthawks, our most successful professional franchise, when the Rochester Press Box continues. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. Rochester Nighthawks embark on their attempt at 4 straight championships in the National Lacrosse League. Fortunately, that game is Friday. It's a best of 1, so that this airs and we know what happens. But put it into some historical context for us, Craig. You're with these guys all the time. How big would this be?
To win a 4 straight championship would be, I mean, obviously we're in uncharted waters even in the National Lacrosse League, Rochester sports history. And you know what? When you talk to any of the players, it's the furthest thing from their mind is we can win 4 in a row, we can win 4 in a row. It's a different mindset, you know. They play for each other. They're like a bunch of brothers, you know. They just go out and play every playoff game like, you know, it's win or lose or go home, and they've been doing that for 4 years now and has produced 3 straight championships.
Has success bred success? I mean, having done it 3 times, do they think they can just walk out there and say, nothing to this? Not that there isn't effort involved, but we've been here, we've done that.
Yeah, you know what? It's kind of interesting because whenever we need a big goal, it seems like Cody Jamieson could have no points the whole game. Last 5 minutes of the game, he scores 3 goals and we win it. You know, we did that the last time we played Buffalo. He was silent for most of the game, scores 3 goals in a row, and we win the game in overtime.
Guys, historically, context, can you think of anything better than this?
In town?
Yeah.
I don't think it's even close. You know, the Rhinos had their run in the late 90s, winning A-League titles, winning the U.S. Open Cup. But you're talking about the Nighthawks.
That's the first thing I thought of, too, was that Open Cup.
But the Nighthawks are doing it at the highest level. The Rhinos did not. And I think Kurt Stiers, he's made some shrewd moves over the years. And he's not afraid to make moves and spend money and quietly has built a dynasty. And I think for your entertainment dollar, I think they're #1 in town. Oh, they give you just about anything you want. And I don't think you need to be a hardcore lacrosse fan, because my wife and daughter, when we went to the games last year, loved it, and they don't even know a thing about lacrosse, and they love going to those games.
And here's something wild about the Nighthawks, too, is look, people go to these games in town, and they'd like to see their teams win. Red Wings games, of course, you got your fans that want to see the Wings win. Nobody's cheering for them to lose, but when it comes to fans who are just hungry for their team to win around here, I feel like you guys and the Rochester Americans still have that. But the Nighthawks, I mean, the fans that go to the games, they're going to the games to watch you guys just crush somebody, and they want to see the team just roll. Exactly. It's a blast to go watch these games, and the team does a very good job creating a fun atmosphere. But those people are going to watch a win. They're not going for a night out at a lacrosse field. They're going to watch the Nighthawks win. And needless to say, they've done that a little bit.
Well, they're the Packers of the NLL. They're the smallest market team in the league. They're the Packers. Think about that.
You can't pay a higher compliment, right?
Right? And what they're doing in a small market, competing with these big market teams, they're beating them at their own game.
And I'm curious to see this league in 20 years. Obviously, I'm getting ahead of things a little bit, but lacrosse is the fastest growing sport in the country. What's going to happen when these kids that are just growing up, 6-year-olds playing box lacrosse right now, when all these kids who are playing lacrosse want to keep watching it, want to keep playing it? I'm curious to see if this league starts growing and it becomes more of a nationwide league than it is. What will you be working on? 23 straight at that point? Is that what we'll be at?
Just the last thing, and I wonder, and you know him, is Kurt Stiers maybe the most underappreciated guy in the Rochester sports community?
I don't know. I wouldn't say underappreciated. I think he, on purpose, puts himself in the background. He likes everyone to kind of have their moment in the sun. That's what he always tells me. Everyone deserves their chance to be front and center. I think in another 10 years, people can appreciate more now that we're not in the middle of this, the 4 straight years of long playoff runs. I think you appreciate it more once you're away from it. Right now, people are just caught up in the excitement.
Yeah, I think we got really lucky with this guy.
Oh, we definitely did, because he saved 2 franchises. The Amherst and the Nighthawks, and then he sold the Amherst off to Terry Pagula, and they've thrived. And now the Nighthawks is kind of his baby, and he's really devoted all his time to the Nighthawks.
Very good. Like it or not, when we return. It's the Challenger Miracle Field, and it's being built in Webster for our physically and emotionally challenged friends. It'll cost $500,000. Opening day is 2016. You can help make it happen. Check it out, webstermiraclefield.org. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. Bill Pucko with you, like it or not. Toby, the Pacquiao-Mayweather rematch.
It depends how long it is after this shoulder surgery Pacquiao apparently is going to need. What's going to put him out 12 months? I don't know. The first fight was exactly what I expected it to be, because that's how Mayweather fights. And if you paid attention to this guy, you knew this was going to be a defensive fight for Mayweather. Pacquiao didn't come out swinging like he normally does. Clearly, he was affected by whatever was going on with his shoulder, but I don't know. People might have felt a little too burned by this one right now. I don't know how quick people are going to be to drop $99 on it again. So I'm not a big fan. I think that ship has sailed.
It just seems so contrived, doesn't it?
There's no way. I mean, Pacquiao is going to be out 9 to 12 months, right? Mayweather is going to fight probably in September, so he'll be 49-0. And then he goes for number 50-0, which would be the all-time record against a guy that, as far as I'm concerned, mailed it in the last 5 or 6 rounds. Whether he had a bad shoulder or not, I don't think the public wants to see it.
I'm trying to think, it sounds so suspicious, but I'm trying to think, if he doesn't really have a shoulder injury, how far do you take this thing? Do you undergo surgery just to prove you're not lying to people? This is just so bizarre, it seems to me, Craig.
A lot of drama pre-fight, a lot of drama post-fight. I'm not surprised by everything that's come out. I do give him a lot of credit, though. Anyone that's had a torn rotator cuff to be in the ring for 12 rounds and gut it out, I mean, you have to deserve something for that.
Mr. Shoulder Injury. Could you have done what Pacquiao did?
I would have at least tried to throw a punch the last 2 to 3 rounds. Absolutely.
Let's also say this. I'm not going to put it past him to have a rematch, because boxing is run by clowns right now. It's a circus.
Now, to people who have followed the sport over a long period of time, this isn't an unusual situation.
I know.
Johnny, like it or not, Michael Pineda, the New York Yankees.
Like him. I mean, they stole him. At the time, you were questioning what is New York doing when they made the trade, but now he's kind of anchoring that staff. With Tanaka out, Pineda now is at the top of the rotation, and you heard Brian McCann after he pitched on Tuesday night saying he's as good as anyone. He's at the top of anyone's rotation. So if Pineda continues to pitch like that, and if they get Tanaka back, there's still some question marks in that rotation. But here's a guy, they traded, Jesus Montero to get Michael Pineda.
What was the deal? Was that just it?
Yeah, Montero ate himself out of the league, and Pineda, who missed a lot of time with his shoulder injury, is now... Seattle looks foolish in the trade. They gave away a good young right arm. It's a great move by Brian Cashman, who hasn't made a lot of great moves, But that one he should be applauded for. He stole him.
He's a stud. He looks like a stud. He's got to stay healthy. You never know when that type of issue pops up. But right now, he's pretty much unhittable. And if he anchors the Yankee rotation like that, anytime you have an ace that you can turn to stop bleeding, especially with a team that is aging, that may have injury concerns throughout the year, if this guy can stay in there and just anchor that team, they're going to hang around.
Don't use pine tar. Don't put pine tar in the glove, and I think you'll be fine.
You have to go back to something that we said last week. If you would take this point of the season, 1 month in it, A-Rod is one of your best hitters. Tanaka's on the disabled list, and Sabathia can't beat anybody. This team is dead.
You would think they would be, rather than at the time 17-10, they'd be 10-17.
Brett Gardner continues to just become a better and better player. He's gone from lovable underdog to bona fide star outfielder.
And Ellsbury is now earning every penny. Not that he didn't earn it, last year, but he is right now carrying the Yankees. He's hitting over 500 over his last 8 games. He's unstoppable.
Yeah, and that bullpen, which will have a little something more to say. On unfinished business, which is next on the original Rochester Press Box. Welcome back to the original Rochester Press Box. It's time for unfinished business. As always, John starts.
I want to retract something I just said just a few segments ago. Listen, I'm not a big Star Wars guy. I don't go to see Hunger Games. I don't go to see Harry Potter, but I'm a sucker for boxing. And if Pacquiao and Mayweather want to fight again, you know what? I just said no one's going to pay for it, but let me raise my hand. I was raised on boxing. I am such a boxing nut. It dates back to going back to the 70s and through the 80s with great fights with Sugar Ray Leonard and Wilfred Benitez and then Roberto Duran. Heck, I paid for the 3rd time Duran and Leonard fought. I paid a 3rd time when Hearns and Leonard fought. I paid to see Holyfield and Tyson fight for a 2nd time. The list goes on and on. I actually paid to see Mike Tyson beat up Michael Spinks in 58 seconds. I paid $25 at the time. And if I had to do it over again, I would do exactly the same thing. I love boxing. I know the sport is on life support, and as Toby said, it is run by clowns. But you know what? I'm part of the circus. If it's coming to town, I'm raising my hand. I'm going to see it. That's how much I love boxing, how desperate I am for a big fight.
We respect you for coming clean, John.
I had to come clean. I feel so much better about it.
Craig?
Matt Vince won the Professional Athlete of the Year in the Rochester Press Radio Club dinner. It's the first time he's ever won it. It's the only 4-time goalie of the year. I have to say that with the amount of work that he puts in and the effort, he's got to be one of the greatest goalies ever to come out of Rochester, New York. And you could probably put him in the class of one of the greatest athletes ever to play in Rochester, New York. Not only is he a 4-time goalie of the year, which is unprecedented, 3 straight championships since getting acquired in 2010, and his goals against average the month leading up to the playoffs, 6.80. Matt Vince, as I say, has to be in a class of his own. And when we look back years from now, I think we'll be able to appreciate all of his accomplishments even more.
We love these goalies in lacrosse. I remember Chugger was the most popular athlete in town for a while.
Yeah, Pat O'Toole.
I love Pat O'Toole,
but it's a little bit more than just going out there like the Michelin Man and getting in the way, right?
The equipment is actually getting smaller. The players are getting better, and you know what? You've got to be quicker and agile, and you see that in the makeup of the goalie. They're no longer the guys that go out for burgers and fries on game days. They eat their grilled chicken and broccoli, and that's how they get ready to play.
Very good. Dope.
Grilled chicken and broccoli. More power to them. It's not exactly a surprise that nobody survived this hockey season in Western New York, but that doesn't mean that you can't feel a little bit bad for now former Amherst head coach Chad Cassidy. You can argue that Ted Nolan signed up for what happened in Buffalo. That wasn't the case with Chad. The Sabres continuously, necessarily, pulled players from the Amherst over his last 2 years in town, leaving him with very little to work with, and you saw the result this season. They finished near the bottom of the league, much closer to the bottom than they did even to a playoff spot. But here's the thing. When you talk to the guys in the locker room, Drew Bagnall, veterans like him who said, my biggest regret in missing half of the season was not being able to do more for him because I know he did everything for us. When you see players like Johan Larsson and Mikhail Grigorenko who were doing nothing for the first half of the season and all of a sudden, toward the end, started looking like a real part of this Buffalo Sabres future, that was the mark of Chad Cassidy, a good guy who had his players playing for him in the locker room despite everything that happened this year in Rochester, and who started producing some NHL talent out of those very same players. He's going to be missed here despite what the record says, and I hope he's not forgotten despite not winning a playoff series here.
You know, much in the same way Ted Nolan in Buffalo, really, he was dealt a hand he couldn't win, don't you think?
It's what happens. It's the downside of minor league sports is if the big club needs your guys, you're going to play with essentially the Elmira Jackals and a bunch of tryout players, and he had no chance.
You had him on live every week. Pretty
Great guy, very, very knowledgeable and honest, and it was just unfortunate. I think he knew at the end of the year that he was not coming back. The writing was on the wall.
Hey, the game of baseball has changed. There have been conflicting, theories over the years as to how you build a good baseball team. It's strong up the middle. You need the shortstop, the second baseman, catcher, and the center fielder. The strong starting pitching. The home run hitter, Earl Weaver, was always a big fan of the 3-run home run. Well, that's not how you do it anymore. Tom Verducci wrote an article for SI.com this week in which he detailed the value of relief pitching in the modern-day game of baseball. First of all, it's important enough so that there are now over 8 pitchers per game played in the major leagues. There's so much of that changing. But the most telling is that he rattled off the teams that had the lowest bullpen ERA for the month of April. Those teams were the Royals, the Cardinals, the Yankees, the Astros, and the Dodgers. What do those teams have in common? That through the month of April, those were all division leaders. Lowest earned run average for the bullpens through the month. It's become the most important statistic in baseball. The game really has changed. And the Yankees are certainly benefiting by that.
They took the page from the Royals a year ago. That bullpen took them all the way to the World Series. In fact, they were Madison Bumgarner away from winning.
You know, started to discover it, I think, was Tom Gordon. Because Tom Gordon was the first guy, an 8th-inning relief pitcher, long relief pitcher, was put on an all-star team. Yeah. And people started to look at it and says, there's another way to do things.
And the Reds in '90 had the back end there with their 2 closers.
Yep.
They won a World Series.
That's our program. Thank you, Johnny.
Good
Great
stuff.
as always.
Billy, great show today.
Toby, good to have you back.
Happy to be here.
Craig, good luck. Let's see if we get that fourth one. I hope a week from now we're still out there slugging.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next